How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another video. This video is a user guide for the Zoom F3 recorder. In this video, I'll cover the physical aspects, all the external controls, connection ports, as well as all the options in the menu. I will explain what they are, how to use them, so you guys can take full advantage of this recorder and what it can do. Let's do it. The audio for this video has been recorded on the Zoom F3 using a Sennheiser MKH50 microphone. First, let's have a look at how we can power the F3. To power it, we can either use a power supply connected to its USB Type-C port, such as an AC adapter, USB power coming from a computer, a power bank, or AA batteries. The batteries can only be alkaline, nickel metal, or lithium, and should not be mixed. To get a correct estimate of how much battery we have left, we need to set the battery type in the menu. By the way, when not used, the headphone socket gets automatically disabled to save battery. So if you don't need to monitor your audio, it's best not to plug anything into it, and that way it will allow your batteries to last a little bit longer. This recorder prioritizes USB power supply over batteries. And that is a useful feature because we can use batteries as a backup, meaning that the batteries will not be used until the USB power supply will get disconnected or switched off. If it does get disconnected, the F3 will automatically switch the batteries without powering off or interrupting our recording. If for any reason the power is interrupted and you don't have batteries inside, or any other problem occurs during a recording, an affected file can be restored to normal by playing it in the recorder. By the way, if the recorder will not be powered for a very long time, the date and time data stored on the recorder will be reset. Okay, now let's move to the body. The F3 is built around this metal chassis that is basically protecting everything that's made of plastic and could potentially break if hit or if the recorder gets dropped, including the display, which as you can see is slightly recessed into the body, so if dropped flat down, it will not get hit and damaged. At the top of the recorder, we have the display, and we also have two pairs of buttons, each two buttons corresponding to one of the XLR inputs. Before I explain them, I will turn on the F3 by long pressing the power button. Once the recorder is on, we can notice the screen is split in half. Each half will have a number and will correspond with the same number on the XLR inputs, except for when the file format is set to stereo, in which case it will be marked L and R, meaning left and right. But the XLR input will correspond with a half that it's on the same side. So it's pretty much straightforward, there's nothing complicated about it. Each side of the screen will show a waveform representing the audio captured by each input. Also, the amplitude will be represented through the height of the waveform, not through audio meters like we are used to. At the top of the screen, we have the remaining record time based on the settings on our recorder and the remaining memory space on our SD card. Next to it is the status symbol, which can be play, pause, record, or stop. At the moment it's stopped, it's not doing anything. On the right hand side, we have the battery level, and like I said, if we want to get a correct estimate of how much battery we have left, we need to choose the battery type in the menu, which I'll show you how to do in a few minutes. At the bottom on the left side is an option that allows us to set the amplification level for each input. If we only want to record on the SD card, the level doesn't matter much because the F3 only records in 32-bit float, which gives it a very wide dynamic range. It's only when we send audio to a device doing a live stream or live performance that the amplitude will matter because it will determine to some extent how loud the audio will be for that certain application, in which case we do want to set it accordingly. It can be set from 1 all the way up to 1024, doubling each time we go up. By the way, after recording has started, you cannot amplify the audio of an input. Increasing the amplitude value will only zoom into the waveform. The audio amplification will not change. You will need to stop the recording if you want to increase or reduce the amplification, amend it, and start the recording again. The other button opens a small set of options for the XLR inputs. The first option allows us to turn the input on or off, and we do want to have it off if we're only using one of them because it will consume less battery and it will increase our record time. When we turn the input off, the corresponding half of the screen to the input will be marked with this dot pattern. The next option allows us to choose our input, or in other words, what we want to plug into our XLR ports. We can choose mic if we want to use it with dynamic microphones, mic 2448, which is microphone with phantom power. If we want to use it with condenser microphones, we can choose line, useful with instruments or mixers because they carry a higher voltage signal. And lastly, line with phantom power if the device requires phantom power. After choosing what we want to use with it, either mic or line will show when we exit to our main screen. Also a small lightning symbol if either of them will have phantom power selected. The next option allows us to choose our phantom power voltage, either 24 or 48 volt. For best results, check the specs of the device you're using because, for example, if you're using a microphone that's meant to work with 48 volt phantom power and you're using it with 24 instead, it may still work, but it will introduce a lot of noise to your audio. Next is high pass filter, also known as low cut. This will remove unwanted low frequencies from your audio, and we can have it off or on. When on, it can be set from 10 Hz all the way up to 240 Hz. Next option allows us to invert the phase of our signal. This is useful when sound cancels each other out due to mic settings. This happens when you record with multiple microphones and their phases are cancelling each other out in the mix or the output signal. To put it in simple terms, imagine a puddle of water when you throw a rock. Sound is similar. It acts as a wave and it creates vibration in the air that causes the mic diaphragm to move. Usually the peaks will move in one direction and the drops will generate movement in the opposite direction. So when signals are in phase, we hear loud and clear audio coming from both signals, but when they're out of phase, they cancel each other out, just like ripples of water going against each other. When the peaks and drops meet with one another, they cancel each other out. The next option is delay. This allows us to add a delay to our input so we can sync our audio with other devices. And we can add a delay ranging from 0.1 millisecond all the way up to 30 milliseconds. And that's all the inputs that can be accessed from these buttons just under the screen. Moving to the front, we have the 3.5mm line-out socket, the headphone socket, and the volume adjustment for the headphones. According to Zoom, it's recommended that before connecting the F3 to speakers or headphones, to set the F3 headphone volume and line-out output to 0. Using an app that does not support 32-bit float format could make an unexpected loud noise and damage our ears. On the right-hand side, we have the power button, the Bluetooth adapter socket, which is covered by this rubber plug, and the record hold switch. The record hold switch serves 4 functions. Turns on, off, hold, and we do want to enable hold when we have this mounted in places where buttons could potentially get bumped into or touched. When hold is turned on, all the buttons are disabled, including the power button. And it also has the function of starting and stopping a recording. When sliding in the opposite way, basically it will start a recording. When we do so, a message will pop on our screen saying recording has started. The square icon I was telling you guys about earlier will turn into a circle. The red LED indicator will turn on. And we will also hear a beep in the headphones if that function is enabled in the menu. To stop and save a recording, we just need to slide it towards record again or press the stop button. It is recommended that we adjust the waveform display magnification before we adjust the headphone volume or line-out level. By the way, starting and stopping a recording can be done from various screens, so we don't necessarily need to be on our home screen. However, Zoom claims that some screens do not allow recording and stopping. They do not specify which ones they are, and I have not put it to the test. I don't know exactly which ones they are, just be aware of it. The annoying thing about the slider is that you can accidentally start a recording when you just want to exit hold. When we want to do a longer take and the file size exceeds 2 GB during recording, a new file would be automatically created and the recording will continue without pause. If this happens, the elapsed record time shown on the home screen will not be reset. So for example, if you do like a 5 to 6 hour take, you will probably end up with 2 or 3 files depending on the sample rate. In post, you just have to put them together on your timeline. Going to the back, we have the XLR inputs, and the thing I noticed about these inputs is that they're not made by Deutric like they are on so many other recorders, probably to reduce the manufacturing cost of the F3. And also, these are not Combi TRS inputs, they're XLR only. And like I mentioned earlier, the number corresponds to one of the waveforms on the display, and the file format is mono. Moving around to the left, we have the play, pause, stop, and menu buttons, the USB Type-C, and the SD card slot. The USB Type-C can be used to power the recorder, to connect to other devices as an audio interface, as well as access files on the SD card from a PC or Mac. By the way, this recorder can take microSD cards up to 1 terabyte. For best results, when we start a recording on an SD card that is new or has been formatted on a computer, it is recommended that we have it formatted in the recorder as well. When inserting an SD card, make sure the contact pins are facing down. To avoid any data loss, insert or remove SD cards while the recorder is powered off. And lastly, on the bottom we can find the 1/4-inch thread mount, the battery compartment, which takes 2 AA batteries, and the rods that can be used to strap or mount this recorder in different places, like on the waist, on the wrist, and so on. Okay, now let's go to the menu. In order to make the menu easy to explain and to understand, I have created this diagram showing every sub-option found under each option. I will also explain what they are and how to use it. So the main options in the menu are Finder, Recording, Output, USB audio interface, USB file transfer, and System. The first option is Finder, and Finder basically allows us to access our recordings, where we can scroll through them, play them, see their info, as well as delete them. Be aware if the file format was mono, the 2 files recorded simultaneously by input 1 and input 2 will be deleted together by this action. The second option is Recording. Recording gives us the possibility to amend how our future recordings will be named, either by the date and the number of the take, or to have a user-defined custom name followed by the take number. Please note that every time we toggle between them, our take number will reset. Sample rate allows us to choose between 44.1 kHz sample rate and 192 kHz. Please note that increasing the sample rate reduces pre-record times from 6 seconds to either 3 or 1 second depending on the sample rate. Please also note that when 192 kHz is selected, input delay and line out delay are disabled. File format gives us the option to either record a file where both inputs are used as a stereo configuration, or in other words, we will have one stereo file with audio from input number 1 on one channel and audio from input number 2 on the other channel, or mono, where each input will record an individual mono file. Pre-record can allow 6 seconds of recording prior to pressing the button if the sample rate is set between 44.1 kHz and 48 kHz. 3 seconds if set between 88.2 and 96 kHz, and drops to 1 second only if set to 192 kHz. Sound marker create audio markers when starting and ending a recording, making it easier to synchronize audio in post if we're sending audio to a camera as well. The record counter can be changed from elapsed time as default to remaining time. Okay, moving on. Under output, we can set headphone output alert sounds. These are half-second tone signals and they let us know, for example, when the battery is low, when recording has started, recording has stopped, or recording is not possible, and can be set on or off. When on, we can adjust the loudness of the alert sounds between -12 dB full scale and -48 dB full scale. Line out can be adjusted between 24 dB and -48 dB. Line out limiter can stop the audio from clipping in the audio device we're sending a signal to, and can be turned on or off. Line out delay can add a delay to our output, so we can synchronize our output with other devices. We must remember that we can also add a delay to our input signal. Output delay can be set between 0.1 millisecond and 400 milliseconds. If you don't want any delay, just keep it on 0. Please note that increasing the sample rate to 192 kHz disables input and output delay, as mentioned earlier. The fourth main option is USB audio interface. When we use the recorder as an audio interface, we can choose the device we send audio to, which can either be PC/Mac or a tablet, and whether we want to send linear or float audio, namely 24 or 32-bit float audio. Connecting the F3 to a Windows PC requires installing some drivers that can be downloaded from zoomcorp.com. I will also provide a link for the drivers in the description of the video. Once we enable audio interface, our menu changes, so there will be new options added that are specific to audio interface, and some will be removed because they're not relevant. For now, let's finish explaining the menu in record mode, and I'll come back to it later after finishing, and I will explain the audio interface menu, for which I have created a separate diagram. The next option is USB file transfer. This option basically turns our recorder into a card reader and allows us to read or copy files to our PC or Mac from the SD card. The next main option is System. Under System, we can change the language, set the date and time, as well as choose the date and time format. We can turn on or off our LCD backlight, and if we do need the backlight on but we want to save battery as well, we can have it set to turn off after 1 minute. LCD contrast can be set between 1 and 10, and from my experience, 5 looks best. Below 5, the text looks sort of washed out, and as we go higher than 5, the text starts to fade out and looks washed out again. I think this is because the LCD backlight increases as we go higher. Under power, we can choose the battery type, which is important that we do because the recorder will be optimized for the battery type and will also get a correct estimate of our battery percentage. We can also set the record to turn off by itself if not used for more than 10 or 60 minutes. By not used, I mean nothing is being recorded and none of the buttons have been touched in the last 10 or 60 minutes. And here are some examples when the F3 will not power off. When recording or playing, when the F3 is being used as an audio interface, when the F3 is being used as a card reader, when the Bluetooth device is connected, when a card is being tested, or when the firmware is being updated. The next main option is SD card. An SD card is pretty much straightforward. It allows us to format our SD card, which is recommended that we do prior to using it for the first time. We can also run a quick compatibility test that only takes a few seconds, or a full test, which takes significantly longer depending on the size of the SD card. This will test whether our microSD card is compatible with the recorder, but according to Zoom, this test should only be used as a guide. It does not guarantee that the SD card will work without any issues. The Bluetooth function allows us to use the recorder with timecode or to use it with a mobile app. To be able to use the Bluetooth function on the F3, you need a dongle such as the Zoom BTA1. The next option is timecode, and under this option we can check our timecode information as well as choose whether we want the timecode info to be shown on our main display window. So we can have record and timecode only, or record time only shown on our main screen. The next option allows us to check the software version for the system, for boot, or checksum. Lastly, we have the reset option, which allows us to reset the factory default. Okay, now let's have a look at the menu when audio interface is enabled. Before using the F3 as an audio interface with a Windows computer, we have to download the F3 drivers to the computer from zoomcorp.com and install them. No drivers are necessary with smartphones, tablets, or Mac computers. The F3 can be used as a 2-in, 2-out interface. Signal inputs to the F3 can be sent to a computer, smartphone or tablet, and playback signal from a computer, smartphone or tablet can be output from the F3. Signals cannot, however, be recorded on the SD card like on the Portacapture X6. Before using a float, confirm the app used on your computer, smartphone or tablet supports 32-bit float format. As we can see, there are a few options available when we use it as an audio interface. Our first option allows us to exit audio interface. If we exit, our menu will go back to the way it was when we were in record mode. By the way, all the options in green are only available for audio interface. Next is loop back. This function allows the playback sound from the computer, smartphone or tablet, and sound input to the Zoom F3 to be mixed and sent back to the computer, smartphone or tablet. This function can be used to add narration to music played from a computer and record the mix or stream into a computer. Next is mono mix. The monitor sound of input 1 and 2 and the signal sent to a computer, smartphone or tablet can be mixed in mono. This function is useful when we don't want the signal sent to a computer, smartphone or tablet to be stereo. Next is direct monitor. This outputs the sound being recorded by the F3 before sending it to a computer, smartphone or tablet. And this basically enables monitoring without latency. The output and system options are the same, with only SD card, Bluetooth, and timecode missing from system. And with that, I have covered both the recording and the audio interface menu, the physical aspects, and all the power options for the Zoom F3. Hopefully now you can confidently use the F3 to its full potential and take advantage of almost everything this recorder can do. And I'm saying almost everything because unfortunately I couldn't show you guys how to connect to a mobile app as well as use it with an Atomos UltraSync Blue. I buy these things, no one sends them to me for free, so unfortunately I couldn't buy all the accessories for the Zoom F3. But anyway, that is it for this video. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care now.